Hello everyone, Greta here, and welcome to today's episode of Let's Chat. So today the topic is a little bit interesting. It's actually a request from someone. The request was, they actually DM'd me and said that a lot of people who are starting yoga are hesitant to continue because they find that they pass a lot of gas in the yoga class and they feel very embarrassed about it. And the person asked if I could have a little chat about this, like this, so it's this situation, what causes it and what can we do? So I thought, oh yeah, that's very interesting. So why not? So after a bit of research here, I am going to share with you the information that I find and also my reaction, as a teacher when people pass gas in the class. And before I recorded this session, I had thought of doing a poll on Instagram asking if anyone has passed gas in a class before. And then I thought, I wonder if anyone would actually say yes, because the poll on IG is not anonymous. So I can actually see who replies what. So in the end, I decided against it. So anyways, farting in yoga, it's definitely a very, very normal and natural thing to experience. So we are just going to go a little bit deeper on why. For today's session, we are going to talk about what exactly is fart before we actually go into details and the causes of it. Why do we pass gas more often in a yoga practice? And also things that we could do to maybe avoid or prevent it. So before we actually talk about farting in a yoga class, let's talk about what exactly is fart. So fart consists of a number of different gases, including methane, nitrogen, and carbon dioxide. So it's a lot of science here. And some smell stronger, some smells less strong. So it really depends on the ratio of gases, and which is influenced by the foods that we eat. So if we eat more dairy, more beans, then the smell would be stronger. And we are going to go into a little bit more details later on in the session. So we're going to talk about that then. So farting is actually generated by swallowed air and also digestion. So swallowed air, what exactly is it? So it's basically air that we swallow. It's not a deliberate inhale from the mouth, but also, when we talk, when we eat, when we chew, things like that. So, it's a combination of the food that we eat, the digestion, and also the swallowed air. And also the byproducts of intestinal bacteria. So it's a combination of a lot of things. And don't feel that, passing gas is something that's really, really rare. We actually pass gas very often. According to Dr. Melvin Look, which I have actually included a lot of the research material, the content, the sources on the description below, so you can look it up if you like. We actually pass gas 15 to 20 times a day. So that's actually quite frequent. All right, so what causes farting in yoga? So it's not just yoga and yoga class that we fart. We actually fart when we exercise. Generally speaking, exercise speeds up digestion. So it doesn't matter if you're running, or if you're playing tennis, or if you're swimming or whatever, whenever we're exercising, because we are doing a lot of movement. So the movement would actually help moving of the gut. So because when the gut moves faster, digestion increases, and that it also increases the process that not just the stool through the gut. So that is why whenever we exercise, we actually pass gas more often. But then I guess, for other kinds of exercises, there's a lot of things happening. If we run, usually music is on, or when we're running outdoors, there's a lot of external noises that kind of covers the gas passing sound and also the smell as well. There's a lot of different smells around us when we are actually doing a lot of different kinds of exercise compared to when we're doing yoga. Yoga is more quiet and more focused. We really focus on the inhale and exhale. And because of that, the smell becomes a lot more, the sense of smell becomes a lot more sensitive. And also because the room setting usually is a lot quieter, unless, there's strong music playing, then that's why the gas passing sound would be louder. So coming back to why yoga causes fighting is very frequent in a yoga class, and that's because when we practice yoga, we are actually activating our parasympathetic nervous system. So before we get into that, let's pull out a little bit and talk about our nervous system. So our nervous system, the central nervous system, has two branches. One is the sympathetic nervous system, where we call it fight and flight or freeze. And the other is the parasympathetic nervous system, where it's called rest and digest. So when we are working, living in the city, it doesn't matter where you are geographically. As long as we're living in the city, we have stress. And when we're in stressful situations, it could be like loads amount of stress, i.e. if you are in a very busy day at work, there's a lot of deadlines coming up, there's a huge presentation coming up, whatever, then the stress would increase. But generally speaking, when you're living in the city, that would be stress. And also how we hold our body, we always tend to round the shoulders a little bit. That shape also triggers a little bit of stress signals to the brain. So whenever the sympathetic nervous system, where we call the fight, flight, or freeze mode, is on, then we accumulate a lot of stress inside us. And so when the fight, flight mode is on, usually for the brain, it sends a lot of blood into the big muscles, like the legs, the arms, and the shoulders. So because in the fight, flight mode, the brain is still in a very primitive side, we think that, there's like a lion chasing us, there's a dinosaur chasing us. So we need to use the big muscles to get away, or maybe to prepare to fight, or maybe just freeze. So you can actually think or relate to a scenario where you are in a high stress mode. Maybe there's like a big presentation coming up or big deadline coming up, and you have to really, make sure that everything is finished before that. And usually when you're too busy or too stressed out, you don't have the appetite to eat. And that's because the blood has all gone into the big muscles and not in the digestive system anymore. So that is why when we're in the fight-flight mode, or the sympathetic nervous system is switched on, our appetite goes down. And that creates a lot of stress. And when we are actually in a yoga room setting or yoga class setting, generally speaking, we are more in a relaxed mode, right? And that's when the parasympathetic nervous system is switched on. And that's called the rest and digest. So then in that vibe, the muscles tend to relax a little bit. I know that there's still a lot of stress happening in a yoga class, but that's a different kind of stress. And we are more relaxed, we're more calm. So the fight-flight mode is switched off. The rest and digest mode is switched on. So all the tension, all the stress that's been collected when we are not practicing yoga would be released out. And the stress is actually a form of energy that's stuck inside us. And when we release the energy, there's a lot of different ways of releasing the excess, the stressed out energy out from the body. Sometimes we sweat, sometimes we laugh, sometimes we cough or sneeze, sometimes we actually cry, and also farting. Farting is actually a way of releasing the tension, mental or emotional tension, from the body. And that only happens when we are in a rest digest mode. And when we are in a yoga room or yoga class setting, I always say yoga room, yoga class setting, when we tend to be more relaxed, then the blood, instead of going to the big muscles in the fight-flight mode, will be going into the digestive system. Hence, it's called rest and digest. So as there's more blood in the digestive system, then digestion increases. Now, when we are able to relax, then we can really able to let the digestive system start to work. And when our gut starts to get moving, then the waste, and then waste will be produced, and waste needs to be eliminated. So that is why when we are doing yoga, we tend to eliminate more waste, like gas, like farting, because gas is a lot more difficult to hold than solid. So that's why it's easier to pass gas in a yoga room setting. And also, a lot of the yoga shapes are designed to debloat you, or to really aid with digestion, to aid with elimination. There are some shapes where when we twist, there's actually a pose called wind relieving pose, where it's designed to relieve the wind inside us, and that's gas. So whenever we are doing all these like crazy shapes, not necessarily, it doesn't have to be like really, really crazy, but when we're twisting, when we're folding forward, folding backwards, again, all those shapes that we do in a yoga class, they help aid digestion. They actually make less room for our GI gut. And so when there's less room, there's, gas is produced, it has to escape the body. So where does it go? It either goes up, belching, or goes down, farting. And not to mention, there are some shapes that deliberately stretch the pelvic floor and the anal sphincters. And those are the areas of the body that actually hold the gas in. So when we deliberately stretch those muscles, it's much harder to engage them to hold the gas in. So that's why, in stretches like those forms, we tend to release gas easier. Also, there are shapes like inversions, like maybe downward facing dog with the, bum up in the air, causing the anus to be up in the sky or in the air. And so the air would be easier to enter the anus much faster, much more direct. So that's why it's easier to pass gas in those shapes. Or actually, you would actually pass gas when you come out of the shape. When you're in like downward facing dog or any kind of inversions, usually don't really release any gas, but actually when you come out of it, that's when you release the gas. And especially for women as well, because the air could also enter the vagina. So when air comes out from the vagina, it's called queefing. So it's not exactly farting, but it's like another kind of gas that's released from the bottom. Aside from the yoga shapes that are designed to, help you release the gas or help aid digestion, or maybe in the yoga class in general, majority of the shapes that we do tend to be easier to pass gas. There are also a lot of other causes, like for people who are pregnant. When people are pregnant, pelvic floor is harder to hold in, so it's easy to pass gas. And also postpartum recovery, after the person has given birth, again, the pelvic floor might still be a little bit on the weaker side. So again, it's harder to hold the gas, so that's why it could be easier to pass gas. And some people might have pelvic floor dysfunction because the pelvic floor needs to be able to contract fully and relax fully. So for any individuals who might have difficulty really controlling the pelvic floor, that could also be a cause. And this does not only happen in pregnant women or maybe like women giving birth. It could also happen in men. So this is not like a situation that could only happen to one gender. Another cause that's within the body is irritable bowel syndrome. So yes, when we are practicing yoga shapes, they could be easier to trigger and led us to fart easier, but there are also other causes that's within our own body that could be the cause or the trigger. Okay, so we have covered, why do we fart easier in a yoga class? So let's talk about ways to avoid or prevent gas. One of it is the food that we eat. So if we eat a lot of beans or broccoli, cabbage, asparagus, cauliflower, Some fruits also would cause a lot of gas, like apples, peaches, pears, prunes, dairy, soft drinks, and processed foods. Try to avoid those if you don't want to pass gas that often or that easily. And also, you actually want to eat slow and you want to chew with your mouth closed, because in the beginning, I mentioned that, gas is actually created with food and swallowed air. So if we eat really fast, we tend to swallow more air. If we chew with our mouth open, we also tend to swallow more air. So chewing, and also the speed that we eat, would also control how much or how frequent we would fart. Another way of preventing to fart is do warm-ups or maybe exercise before you actually do yoga. And in the beginning, I did say that, all sorts of exercises could trigger gas. So if you maybe do a long walk before you come to yoga class, or maybe jog a little bit, then gas will be eliminated then. So when you come to practice yoga, then you're gas free. Also, our digestive system is a lot more empty in the morning. And the emptier the gut is, the lesser the chance you will be able to pass gas. So if you want to prevent farting in the yoga class, consider practicing in the morning in an empty stomach. And me as a yoga teacher, how I would react or how I, deal with people farting in a yoga class, I just let it go. I just let it slide by. It's just like people sneezing or, coughing or belching, whatever. It's just another way of, letting the energy out, and I usually just let it pass. So if you ever need to pass gas, just let it out. Don't hold it in, because the more you hold it in, it's just going to get louder. It's just going to get crazier. But if you do feel like, oh my gosh, it's going to get quite loud, or you can feel it's coming out and you would feel quite embarrassed about it, just, use the bathroom. Okay. Clear everything and then just come back to the class when you feel you're ready. All right, so that's it for my sharing for today. I hope you find it helpful, and please like it, share it, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so, and practice with me. I teach online and in person. Just drop me a DM and I'll get back to you ASAP. Take it easy.